codename G20. Over the years, we've put the BMW 320i through its paces, from short commutes to weekend adventures. And I'm here to tell you everything about it, from design and performance to maintenance and cost of ownership. This is the eagerly anticipated 3-year ownership review. Let's dig in. But before we do that, the channel has just surpassed 800 subscribers, and I have it on good authority that we will cross over 1,000 subscribers by the end of the weekend, shortly followed by monetization thereafter, which is incredible given that I created this channel only 3 weeks ago, and it's all thanks to you. The engagements are crazy, and I simply cannot keep up anymore. I'm just in awe of you guys. To put it into perspective, this is what 1,000 subscribers looks like. So here's to building a small community and breaking these YouTube records. Thank you. Now I know what you want to ask, and the answer is no. It does not vrpa. In fact, the entire G20 lineup produced after the end of 2021 does not bang on upshifts, including the M340i. And the culprit? Yes, you've guessed it, the EU Regulation 540/2014. So let's get nerdy for 2 seconds, shall we? This regulation sets out and defines the maximum allowable sound levels in decibels for new cars produced in each of the 3 phases, namely 2016, 2022, and 2026. It's important to note, however, that these regulations only apply to the European Union. But given that these cars are mass-produced, it makes more financial sense for manufacturers to create a uniform product and distribute it globally. So thanks, EU. Now, the 320i produces less than 100 kilowatts per ton, and so I have highlighted the maximum permissible decibels in each of the 3 phases for illustrative purposes. But worry not, there are various apps out there in the market that can flash the transmission and bring back the glory days. For now, these apps shall remain unnamed until they sponsor this channel. Anyway, once you flash the gearbox together with some exhaust trickery, your B48 engine will sound a lot closer to this. In terms of the design, the 320i's exterior still looks incredibly sharp, even after 3 years. The classic BMW sharp lines and that iconic kidney grille continue to turn heads in this magnificent Portimao blue metallic paint finish. While we've only owned the car for 3 years, we bought it as an 8-month-old demo, so technically it's nearly 4 years old, which only makes the condition of this car even more impressive. It is so pristine. Well, almost pristine. I have noticed a few blemishes and imperfections, which I am gonna discuss next. For instance, if you look closely, there's a small dent on the rear left door, which we got in a parking lot in East London. I think it was during December, and the only parking space we could find in the mall was next to a 1992 white Isuzu that had terribly parked. I just knew the driver was going to bump our car, but I parked there anyway. Well, lo and behold, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. He actually hit his door against our door. So never ignore that feeling, guys. The front right rim also has a couple of curb scratches. By the way, the front of the vehicle is sitting on 225mm 40 ratio 19-inch Pirelli P0 run flat tires. The rear tires are essentially the same, however marginally wider at 255mm and of a lower profile at 35 ratio. More on these a bit later. Finally, the windscreen is cracked, so stick around to find out exactly what happened. Other than that, the vehicle is in near perfect condition and as clean as can be for its age. In terms of practicality, the vehicle comes with a 480-liter boot and the opening is a usable square shape too, with more storage space on the outer edges of the inside. The touring version of the 3 Series is still more practical though, however, we don't get that in South Africa. The rear bench is appointed with Isofix anchor points, a center armrest with proper cup holders that open and close. I like that. Alcantara. So the vehicle also comes with Alcantara and Sensatec seats, which is BMW speak for synthetic leather. You also get 3-zone climate control, which allows the rear passengers to modulate their aircon temperature independently from the front. Sadly, there are no USB ports back here. Rear legroom and headroom are fine for 2 adults in the outer seats and a child in the middle. The vehicle has a sunroof fitted to it as part of the deluxe package and wrapped around in black roof lining. Finally, some lights for the rear seats. When it comes to optional extras, I am quite pedantic, and to understand why, we need to travel back in time. If you're old enough to remember the E53 X5 4.8 IS in Le Mans Blue, you'll remember that this was hands down one of the best SUVs of its time. And 20 years later, it's still a thing of beauty. The point I'm trying to make here is that a highly spec'd BMW in the right color will most likely stand the test of time. We've also seen this in the E30 and E46 M3s, to name a few. For reference, this is how the pre-LCI base model 3 Series looked, basically like an Avis rental. So off the back of that, the optional extras displayed on your screen were non-negotiable for us. Interestingly, the deluxe package of this generation did not come with an automated tailgate. This was a standalone optional extra. However, BMW has now included this in the deluxe package for the LCI and bumped up the price. The BMW Live Cockpit Professional was also another must-have because the base model came with horrendous analog dials. Usually I'm a fan of analog dials, but these were just terrible. Portimao Blue metallic paint was a zero-cost option, however, it's exclusive to the M Sport package, unlike other colors such as mineral white metallic, which can be found in both M and non-M variants. Hello there, Shadowline. So let's take a quick recap. This is the base model, and for an extra 125,000 rands, you got something that looked like this. Totally worth it if you ask me. My favorite BMW interiors are from this era. Build quality is solid and the premium materials still hold up well after so many years without noticeable creaks. This particular unit is equipped with wireless, Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay. Fitted to the center console are those nostalgic age shortcut buttons with a conventional gear selector. I also prefer the carbon fiber looking inlay as opposed to piano black. It still looks brand new 4 years later. But this is not actually carbon fiber, to avoid any confusion. There are two cup holders, a wireless charger, and a USB port. The center storage bin also has a USB-C port neatly tucked away. Moving on to three things that I dislike about this car, and first things first, the steering wheel shine. BMW has the shiniest steering wheels in the market. You could drive out of the showroom floor today, and by noon tomorrow, your steering wheel is shiny. The second thing is that the vehicle has no pedal shifters due to the electronic component shortages post-COVID. However, having said that, you can manually shift on the actual gear knob. Additionally, you don't really need them in this sort of car, as the calibration between the engine and the gearbox is sublime. Lastly, manual seats in a car at this price point should be a crime. So what do I love about this car then? And the answer is everything else, including the My BMW app, which I will thoroughly review in a separate video. Stay tuned. And there you have it, the infamous B48 engine. The 320i packs a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine with 135 kilowatts and 300 newton meters of torque, paired with the 8-speed ZF automatic gearbox. If you thought to yourself that you cannot find the battery, then you would be correct, because it's in the boot, where the spare wheel ordinarily sits. But this has run flat tires, so there is no spare wheel. The battery terminals, however, are in front, next to the engine. Positive and negative. 300 newton meters is not a lot by any means, but this engine makes all of its torque from a very low 1,350 RPM, basically from idle. When you're just puttering around town, the car gently upshifts at 2,000 RPM due to that low down grunt, and it pulls just fine. In fact, it actually feels like it has 400 newton meters. The M Sport suspension feels stiff and nervous over bumps, as you can see from this POV. Additionally, those 19-inch wheels are also a bit noisy at speed, but the cabin is well insulated and blocks most of the noise out. All of this is forgiven when you get to a B road. The car comes alive and the trade-off in the suspension becomes worth it. Very nice, Bentayga. The 320i will do a claimed 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 7.1 seconds. However, we're not going to be launching it. We'll simply pull away at 80% of the throttle and short shift because it has all of that low down usable torque. Hey, Omalume bekhulu drink baninzi namhlanje. And on that note, we can close this performance segment. Finally, consumption is claimed at 6.3 liters to the 100 on the combined cycle. And we've actually tested this over 3,400 kilometers. See what our results were by watching our travel series. I'll leave a link in the comments section. Coming to the part that you guys love the most because niyayithanda imali nini. The cost of ownership. So we bought this 8-month-old demo for the price you're seeing on your screen. And once you get this invoice, the F&I manager will start cooking you. At which point, you politely decline all offerings. I don't want your in-house finance. I don't want your in-house tracker. I don't want your rim and tire protection, flowers, champagne. Just pour me a full tank of petrol, smash and grab on the house, and not a cent more than the advertised price. And I'll be on my way to collect the car. Anyway, around the time that we purchased this vehicle, a brand new 320i with the same options was retailing for 912,800. So we saved 202,900 rands on depreciation for 8 months. If you were to finance a vehicle with a principal debt of 709,900 rands at the current prime interest rate of 11% per annum with no balloon payment over 5 years, your monthly installment would be 15,530. Insurance is risk profile dependent, but I've used the cheapest quotation of 2,663 rands for illustrative purposes only. A full tank of 95 octane petrol at the current price would cost 1,322 rands. And if you filled up twice in 1 month, then your total cost of ownership would cross the 20,000 rand mark. Now please, if you live in Midrand, in a 1-bedroom apartment, with that one camp chair, please leave this car alone because it deserves to sleep in a double garage. But then again, you cannot drive a house now, can you? Or take it to Mokhodu Monday. But jokes aside, a dealership recently offered to buy it for 550,000 rands, which is a good sign that you can still find high-quality pre-LCI models for less than 600,000 rands, which would ultimately bring down your cost of ownership if you are considering buying now. I already know that there's someone here amongst us who's probably thinking, this guy is crazy. I know G20s that are much cheaper than this. Okay, buy them.
I am warning you. Watch out.
Remember those P0s we spoke about earlier? Yep, during our period of ownership, we've had to change all 4 of them at the total you're seeing on your screen. Look again, that is not 2,200 rands. The other significant cost to think about is the motor plan extension. Our vehicle came with a 5-year, 100,000 kilometer motor plan as standard, and ours is expiring in July of 2026 or in the next 40,000 kilometers, whichever one comes first. However, there's an option to extend that. Once you've logged into your account, the configurator allows you to increase the duration of the motor plan contract without increasing the kilometers and vice versa, or increase both, limited to an additional 2 years and up to 200,000 kilometers. So let's look at all 3 scenarios and how they play out financially, starting with if you increase the term by 2 years without increasing the kilometers. You're probably thinking, not too bad, right? Okay, wait for scenario 2 and 3. In scenario 2, we increase the kilometers without increasing the original contractual period. It's getting tense now. And the last scenario is a combination of scenario 1 and 2. At this point, bapha man, because 300,000 rands can get you a low mileage Polo TSI DSG with the sunroof that you can use as a daily. With that said, however, we do want to keep the car long term, so this does not deter us. Maybe we'll sell it to Muzi Sambo in the year 2040 for 60,000 rand. To be perfectly honest, apart from changing brake pads, wiper blades, and getting the car serviced regularly, which are all covered by the motor plan, the vehicle has never had any issues of any nature. And this goes back to the importance of due diligence before committing to a car. Get the dealership to send you the latest inspection report before you pay for the vehicle. And then take your mechanic there to the workshop to corroborate all of the findings that are contained in the dealer's report. This is amongst other tips and tricks that I'll be sharing with you in another video. You'll thank yourself later for it. I also went on bmwblog.com to look up common issues with the B48 engine, which I hope you'll find of great benefit. And finally, the story of the cracked windscreen is short but not so sweet. This was the day of collection, receiving the keys from Barrett. I was a young and handsome gentleman with his whole future ahead of him. And this was the very next day on my way to the Eastern Cape. A rock that had come off the wheels of a truck I was driving behind hit the top right corner of the windscreen. I knew before I stopped, just based off of the sound, that it was game over. Needless to say that we did not claim from insurance because that would have hiked up our premiums in the long run. I mean, the vehicle was less than 12 hours in our ownership. To make matters worse, we subsequently changed insurances along the way. So the long and the short of it is that for as long as the windscreen remains cracked, we will not be able to claim from insurance. The joys of being young and naive. Lastly, the crack basically has some sentimental value because essentially it's as old as we've had the car. But don't worry guys, we're gonna be fitting a new OEM screen soon. And that is the story of the cracked windscreen, which brings us to the end of today's video. If you're a BMW fanboy or fangirl, drop a blue heart in the comment section. Take care.